Okay, we have to talk, because I've been seeing a lot of people say that Gege is a bad writer, or Gege's writing style has really dwindled over the chapters that have been released over the calendar year. And on the surface, I would normally say I agree. I do think there have been some mishaps in the story, but nothing too crazy to the point where I think that, oh, the story is just going too super bad, Gege doesn't understand the characterization of their own characters, other things like that. I've been saying this since really 236, but it has like skyrocketed since like the release of chapter 261 that Yuta is in Gojo's body. Let's make one thing clear. Just because a writer does something that you don't like in the story, that does not mean that insert thing is bad. The whole purpose of Yuta taking over Gojo's body, you're not supposed to like it. Yuta doesn't even fucking like it. Everyone who was in the room who made the decision to take over Gojo's body does not like it. But I've said this time and time again, this is not fucking Disneyland. These are not superheroes. This is Jujutsu Kaisen, and these are Jujutsu sorcerers. They don't have the luxury of not going to the extremes, especially when you have someone who literally eats women and children. The first day Sukuna took over Yuji's body, the first thing he said was, "Where are the women and children?" You cannot afford to have humanity with a motherfucker like that. He has to die. And I really want to hone in on this point because I feel like on both sides, right? I feel like during the Sukuna versus Gojo fight, two major sides of the fan base were created. I mean, obviously you had all like the horny fucking Gojo Nanami stands, but they weren't as apparent since the fight. So you had the horny, ovulating like Gojo fangirls, you had the weird, edgy Sukuna fanboys, you just had two big sides. And after Gojo died, this created a major divide in the fan base. And whenever Gege did something for the Sukuna side, it's bad writing, according to the Gojo fans. And whenever Gege does something sort of decent for like the Gojo side, it's, oh my god, what? Just let him die. Like Gege's glazing. Like it's like that, and it's kind of annoying because sure, and sure, I get it. You have your favorite characters. You have your specific parts in the story that you really appreciate, but that doesn't take away from the overall story. And at this point, it feels like people are just appreciating their own headcanons. And the crazy part is, I believe JJK has bad writing, but none of the sides or really anyone is talking about what's actually bad. What is actually bad is the consistent fucking flashbacks that is telling the story for the narrative instead of like the actual narrative playing out fluently. I am perfectly okay with a flashback every, now and then, especially like if a character's passed and you still want to fulfill some sort of narrative device and that character's gone. That's probably the only way you can do it unless you want the narrator to say it, right? I get that. But there's a difference between every fucking chapter something new happens that there's a flashback. Like, why are we learning that like Yuji and Sukuna are related in a flashback in the middle of a fight? That is like crazy. I don't even know what level of dropping action that is. Why does every time something big happen, we have to get a flashback to everybody in the room talking about the plan to Sukuna? This is where all the ass pulls feel like they're coming from. I feel like the only reason, and I'm okay with Yuta taking over Gojo's body, that's not my problem. My problem is I feel like if it was done just naturally, if it was just, oh, okay, Yuta took over Gojo's body, wow, I did not expect that. That would be a good plot twist. Why add a whole flashback in a chapter, like going over what they're talking about? I would rather them have this whole discussion as one solid chapter, right? Like even before Gojo Sukuna fought, I would rather Gege have Gege write Sukuna talking to Urame about Yuji. I'd rather have Gege write everyone talking about how they're going to defeat Sukuna in one solid chapter. I'd rather have that. The problem is, I'm okay with flashbacks, but not when you're taken away from the action. If I'm watching Hikari and Urame fight, why the fuck am I going to a flashback? What? That's what I think bad writing looks like. And when I say that's bad writing, I don't mean that it's a bad story. I just mean that's bad writing. Your favorite character dying, your favorite character not coming back is not bad writing. Please shut the fuck up. And Indeed.com is hiring. Go look for a job, okay? The off-screen deaths are another case of horrendously bad writing, but no one talks about that. Everybody just wants to talk about how Sukuna is a binding vow merchant. And while I agree to an extent that I feel like Sukuna is making way too many binding vows for my comfort, because I feel like the whole purpose of a binding vow is that hey, I am really sacrificing this one part so I can win this fight. I want you to guess how many binding vows Sukuna has made during the start of the Gojo fight to where we are now in chapter 261. Please guess. Sukuna has made 8 fucking binding vows. since the time where he ripped off Yuji's finger and fucking fed it to Megami to now where we are on the story. And it doesn't seem like there's any sort of type of like repercussion for that, because like the whole purpose of a binding vow is like, sure, you could probably make multiple, but like making 8? What the fuck? And I get it, he's the king of curses, strongest sorcerer in all of history. Cool. It just feels like we're in fucking fairy tale land, right? I like the whole purpose of JJK because I feel like a binding vow is like this thing that you really shouldn't resort to, because like you don't know like what's gonna happen. If I make a binding vow myself, trying to give up something, and then I just break the binding vow, I might like fucking evaporate into thin air. Who knows, right? That was like the whole purpose of a binding vow. But now it just seems like they're just handing them out at fucking Costco, right? For a wholesale. That being said, please let the story finish. I'm not saying you have to wait till it finishes so you can critique it, but if you're going to make a whole judgment based on the entire story, at least wait for the manga to conclude. Also, your favorite character dying or not coming back does not make the story bad, it just makes you a loser beta bitch.